there. You made one little mistake, but long race. We'll get the positions back as Kanan is working on Bourdais.
Yeah, you still want to keep away from these curbs, these alligators, the candy canes, as Townsend likes to call it. You will not see guys riding up on the curb on the inside or getting out on the curbs on the exit. As you see, Kanan steps out sideways. Let's get a little in-car and listen to him work the throttle as he goes around the track.
Still quite a bit of spray coming up. It's not visible from the trackside cameras, but on board you can see the spray that's undoubtedly hitting Kanan's visor. Now this is the fastest section. See how close to wide open they are.
What's wheel 2? Is that leaning down?
Yeah, that's going to be, he's referencing the rotary knob on the steering wheel going to wheel 2. There's also a dash map that he would probably say dash and a number, but wheel 2 is probably fuel map.
155 miles an hour through standing water on the back straightaway was Tony Kanaan in pursuit of Sebastian Bourdais just in front. Meanwhile, out in front, Juan Pablo Montoya from the pole continues to lead.
You know, as we sit here watching this,
clear by 5 on power.
So as Montoya leads, take a look at the start. Kanan tries to go around the outside of Will Power. This is turn 2. This is the first lap. Power just uses all the road at track out. Tony has nowhere to go.
Yeah, Power has no idea that Kanan is working up into his blind spot on the outside of the exit. So great job by Kanan to keep the wheels straight and just drive through it and get back on track. Not much of a loss.
As we watch these guys, an hour ago we were saying there's no way they're going to be able to race today. It was so bad. The rain was coming down so hard. The skies have cleared up. We've got a 2-hour window, and so far, a nice, clean race. Some good racing going on the track.
A little bit further back in the pack, you saw some racing going on. There's the number 8, Sage Karam, very impressive rookie who has some damage to his left front wing. Charlie Kimball in the orange and blue 83, Karam, that's his teammate. Tries to go up inside of him, and they make contact.
Townsend and I sat down with Sage yesterday, or on Friday, and had a little meeting with him, and he said, you know, he got called to Chip's motorhome, and he said, you know, every time you damage one of these cars, it's taking money out of your budget and possibly a race away. So he's really nervous to just finish this race in the conditions like this. So, you know, all those little pieces, when you don't have full sponsorship, all takes money out of the budget.
You and I have both had plenty of those conversations through our career. But interestingly enough, that rabbit ear that came off Sage Karam's Chevy was actually one of the pieces where IndyCar mandated increased reinforcement. Those are now held down by 4 fasteners. I believe that just transfers the weakest point further up the stock. But Marty, you've got some more.
Well, Townsend, as we watch the battle for fourth there between the 2 Frenchmen, Pagenaud and Bourdais, I just talked to the Penske group and what they decided to do, and this is going to be the game the entire day. Right after the installation laps, they went to more of a dry setup. Like you mentioned, Townsend, we think that this track will dry out. It should be a dry race, and then it's going to pour later on, and that might call the race. So Penske going with a little bit of a gamble, more towards the dry setup, and the question is, who goes to those slicks the quickest? That could be who gets the out front the quickest as well. So interesting game going on here on pit road. When do you go to those slick tires?
Well, Marty, the big gamble is going to be, and as we see Sage Karam getting a front wing replacement, the big gamble is going to be that standing water on the back straight. As Paul said, when you go to slicks, it can be all well and good until you hit that standing water. Without grooves, it could be an issue. And that, I think, is so indicative right there, Paul, of how much front downforce is sensitive when he loses a piece like that around a track like this.
Yeah, you would think in the rain that would actually be a help to have a little bit less front downforce as we go to Brian.
Penske runs first, second, third, and fourth, and all these fans are getting one heck of a show from here at Nola Motorsports Park. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by DA Lubricant Company. Performance engineered lubricants since 1919. Visit DALube.com. Can-Am off-road vehicles. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
In theory, you run with your legs. In theory, you play the guitar with your fingers. In theory, stunts are done by doubles. In theory, you can't score in every match. In theory, you crack under pressure.
Available at Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry, and on jared.com.
Over the years,
early going of the Indy Grand Prix of Louisiana, where Juan Pablo Montoya leads his 3 Penske teammates. One to watch so far, there's Joseph Newgarden. He started 12th. He's already picked up a couple of spots, and that's by design and from coaching. He was told this is the opportunity to attack right now. Use your overtake if you need it. He is dealing with a little bit of understeer. Right now, he's settled in the 10th position. We're hearing people are thinking about slicks, but no one is ready to come in. It's still too wet.
You can tell, especially the back straightaway, that spray there, I think slicks would be a challenge to say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the fans out there are wondering, why are these guys able to run so good in this rain here, but at a place like Toronto, they can't? Well, in Toronto, you have all the cars and trucks, there's dropping fluids on the road, there's oil on the road that comes up into the water, and this is a purpose-built racetrack here in NOLA, a great facility, and these cars, the tires are really good here. All the drivers have said the Firestones have a good compound, good construction for this track. In the rain and the street courses, you just have a lot of oils that come up out of the pavement. It makes it very difficult.
Power beginning to close down, almost like a shark, or maybe we should say like one of the gators in one of the canals around here, Townsend. But remember, each one of these drivers has push to pass. They actually have 10 activations that they can use throughout the race, and that's what Power did at St. Pete. He used a push to pass to close up on Montoya and try that desperate move. When do you start burning them here?
Well, if you look down through the field, right now the 4 Penske's up front. Montoya, Power, Castroneves have each used 1. Pagano's used 2. Further down the list, Newgarden jumps out. He's used 8 already, so he's almost out of push to pass according to our data. But I think Will Power's got to be thinking to himself, especially after we saw Sage Karam have to replace damage, I've got to keep my front wing clean. As the track dries, I can't afford to touch this guy or lose any aerodynamic power. Marty?
And you look at that rooster tail coming off JPM's car. It's pretty amazing what Will Power has to drive through. I was talking to Juan Pablo Montoya about what made him so good in the rain. He said, honestly, it was my days in Formula One. We had 2 to 3 races in the rain per year while I was in Formula One. But he said the biggest key there was you just had to stay on track. Remember, in Formula One, you go off track, they pick you up on a hook, you're done for the day. He said, I never could afford that, so I had to learn the very disciplined approach of just staying on the track. That's my only focus today. I want to lead as many laps as I can, certainly, but my main focus, staying on the track. And don't worry about trying to gain points today. Don't worry about trying to lose points either. Just stay on the track and it'll all be good.
Well, the irony, of course, was that Montoya was the one that spun off yesterday in qualifying, so he fell off the island. Now, as we're watching this, I think one of the things you've got to think about is the dry path is starting to form there on the back straightaway. But let's say you put slicks on and you're coming through the field, there's no place to pass. If you've got to get offline, you're in big trouble.
And I saw on the front straightaway, Will Power got down in a puddle to cool the tires. Obviously, as the track dries now, the rain tires get hotter and hotter, and they start to lose grip. So Will Power was getting down in the puddles. We see Hinch trying to make a move. Hinchcliffe is trying to make a move here on the white and blue car, which is Ortiz, I believe.
It's actually Marco Andretti just in front of him in the 27. Different sponsors. This was just from a lap or 2 ago. Stefano Coletti right behind him. Coletti, a rookie in the series, says, hey, I've got this. Well, maybe not so much, really.
And how convenient, the little bypass road takes the shorter radius. So that was
Joker lap.
Yeah,
Joker
lap. There you go. Well, and you were talking about looking for puddles. The rain tires are great in the rain. That's what they're designed for, but the dry and especially temperature is their biggest enemy, and that's what you're saying, Paul.
Yeah,
he's just looking to cool them with the water.
You can see now that there's a dry line just starting to form, and guys are going to look to try to cool their tires. As we see Hinch go again on Marco, around the outside, textbook pass, clean in the braking zone, and he's by.
And James Hinchcliffe, a driver who has really struggled here this weekend, trying to find the handle not only on Nola Motorsports Park, but on his Honda-powered IndyCar. It just has not looked happy all weekend long.
He's had an extremely loose race car, and he's spun in the fastest section of the track 2 or 3 times at least in practice. And Kelly, can you add to that?
Well, yeah, I talked to James Hinchcliffe before, and he just said they're just still trying to figure out this new aero kit on the Hondas out. He said, we just got to figure out what makes her tick, what she likes and dislikes, and certainly throwing the wet weather and has added another kink to that. But that was a move he made on Marco Andretti. Remember, that's his former teammate. He made the move from the 4-car team of Andretti Autosport to the 2-car team of Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, and he said there's cons and pros to each of them. With the 4-car team, obviously, with these new aero kits, you could really divide up the workload, but he said times debriefing after a race, there was so much information that at times it was overwhelming and almost confusing. He thinks he and James Jakes, his teammates, make a great pair. They give similar feedback, have similar driving styles, so he's optimistic for the future here with SPM.
16th at St. Petersburg, uncharacteristic for him. Talk about uncharacteristic for Scott Dixon. One more time, did not start the season off with a good finish at St. Petersburg, and with it starting on entrance points here this weekend, that is not what he needed. He had been blazingly fast.
He's back in 20th, and he is way faster than Sato right now, but he's having a hard time figuring out how to get by. I believe the Ganassi cars are the fastest cars at this track as the conditions start to dry. They came and tested here when all the other teams went to Sebring to prepare for St. Pete, and they rolled off the truck super fast, albeit in dry conditions. So Dixon needs to get by here, and he wants that dry line to form.
Yeah, I mean, that's very strange for Dixon. He's been actually moving backwards, not forwards, since the race started. He has been one of the fastest cars all weekend. Maybe started with more of a dry setup and is still struggling in the rain as we go to Kevin.
And Scott, before the race, wasn't sure whether he liked the fact that it was wet, since he was starting further back than he should have been had it been dry, or not. He said, I'm really concerned about getting caught up into something else. So this doesn't seem too surprising. He's going to be very patient in the early going, make sure that he's in there when we get close to the mid-race, when it starts to dry up, and then he can start to attack when they are able to race, because as you mentioned, they seem to have this place figured out after the extra test here, and they have been quick all weekend.
And Kevin, look at the drivers that don't have those tear-offs. You saw Dixon struggling for visibility, wiping his visor every straightaway, so that could come into play as we get deeper into the stint.
Riding on board with Charlie Kimball, running a little bit further back in the pack right now in 21st, but there's a look at your leader, Juan Pablo Montoya, a champion in multiple forms of motorsports. Juan Pablo Montoya, the winner of the first race of the season. Can he make it win number 2?
Adam, we have to...
Back at NOLA at the Indy Grand Prix of Louisiana, and we have our first takers going to slicks. Tony Kanaan is right in front of Ryan Hunter-Reay. They were running 6th and 7th. Kanaan is going to a set of sticker red, softer alternate tires. That's what Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to do as well. So they're the first to give it a go. And Hunter-Reay with a quicker stop, and he's going to drag race him and beat him up pit road for a spot.
PT, the bite looked pretty good just getting off pit lane with the reds.
Concrete's dry, but this track is still pretty wet, so we really got to stay on this and see if they can make it around the first lap. This is brave move.
And this is the most treacherous part of it, getting these slicks up to temperature. And remember, there are multiple ways to watch. You can watch today's IndyCar race online at NBCSports.com, on mobile and tablets with NBC Sports Live Extra. And you can catch everything, all the excitement that we're seeing right now. And you said it, PT and Townsend, they're going to have their hands full.
The rear of the car. We watched Hunter-Reay's rear car. The rear of the car just dancing, jumping out. So as we see Montoya, he didn't take it, didn't come in this time. So,
but guys, the track looks way better on reds than I thought it would. Just leaving the pit box. So I'm gonna think that a lot of guys might think about ducking in here. They'll be watching the lap times closely for Kanaan and Hunter-Reay.
The tail of the tape is going to be the lap time. How much time can you make up passing? I don't know. Down into turn 1, it is kind of dull colored all the way across, so you may be able to still sneak by people in certain places with slicks on. So they're really rolling the dice, and now Joseph Newgarden, the next team to roll.
Joseph Newgarden rolling in at 50 miles an hour. He's also going to take the plunge because it's drier and there's less plunging on track, and he's going to go to the slicks at this point. He's going to put on the red Firestone, Firehawks. He's also going to get Sunoco fuel as well. We're going to see Scott Dixon come in just a moment. A little bit slower on that stop. By the way, when Hunter Ray beat out Kanan just a few moments ago, it was a little bit slow to fuel. That was the slower spot. A reason for that stop as we see Coletti come in.
Stefano Coletti flashes by, and Simone Di Silvestro also out on reds. Saw a wing adjustment on Joseph Newgarden's car as well.
Saw a couple cars there. Some were on used reds, which will be much easier to get around the track. It looked like Simona was on sticker reds, which will be much more difficult to get around the track until they come in. But as we watch the two leaders here, Montoya and Power still pacing the field and streaking away from everybody.
Get a great shot of that dry line forming from the helicopter, Paul. You can see the very lightly colored spots. That's dry racetrack coming through pretty quickly now. And you mentioned it, Brian, the balance change. When you go to slick tires, it looked to me like they were trying to get as much front wing out of Newgarden's car in anticipation of picking up a lot of front grip over the rain tire.
Teams will be keeping their eyes, as you said, Townsend, on the lap times.
Hunter Ray's first lap on the rain tires was 141.4, and Montoya is running 136s, so still difference.
And guys, they just asked Montoya on the radio if he wanted to come get reds. He said it was too soon, in his opinion. Wait a couple of laps. Left side of your screen, you see Sebastian Bourdais coming in. He agreed that they should put on red tires. Behind him, he leaves pit road, and they're going to see how this works out. The other thing about these guys leaving pit road, you see them almost lose it on pit road, is that they'll now have clean racetrack to work with. That's huge as well. Pick up lap time in quick order.
Tony Kanaan is off, and you see the rear tire spinning. Why? Because he's got those red slicks on, and he gets no grip.
He's in the sippy hole.
He's in the hole. Oh!
You get out there, and he is very, very lucky to get out of there, and he almost collected that car.
And now he's got the slicks that have been cooled off by the water. They were already cool to begin with. He ends up with mud on him, with water on him. Tony Kanaan has his hands full.
He needed a paddle tire to get out of there. That looked like old swamp racing we used to see back in the day.
Swamp buggy racing's big down here.
Kanaan now up to speed down the straightaway at least. Marco Andretti right in front. Sage Karam just behind him. Karam with a wide run off of turn one, which we are used to seeing in the drive. And a lot of puddling water to the outside. Here's a look from Tony Kanaan's onboard.
It's the final two corners here.
Well, as Juan Pablo Montoya predicted, 2 more laps and we're going to come in. Here come 3 of the 4 Penske cars. Montoya will hit first. He is the leader. Rahal came in as well, it looks like. You also see Will Power hitting his stall. And right behind him, Simon Pagenaud, all going to the red tires here. Montoya wanted no changes on the car. He's very happy with how it handled. Will Power leaves pit road. Pagenaud coming up shortly. Next lap, Helio Castroneves will pit as well from the 4th spot.
Will Power had definitely closed down on Juan Pablo Montoya just before the stop. Kevin?
Scott Dixon bringing his car down pit road as well at 50 miles an hour. He's changing to the sticker slicks. These are the alternate red tires. Still going to be very wet spots on the track. Pretty good stop for the Ganassi team.
We talk about wet spots. It was barely even damp down in the 11-12 complex where Kanaan had his problem, but when they're cold, there's just no grip available.
Yeah, and I look at the times. I mean, still Hunter Ray is 135 versus Castroneves' last lap, really the last of the leaders to come in for dries at 136. So not a big time difference. It's not like it's a big difference as we see these two guys, teammates here, racing each other as Dixon comes out of the pits. Kanaan is back up to speed again.
It just gives you an idea of once you've been out for a lap, you've got some temperature in your tire, the difference between a car with a lap on them and Scott Dixon straight out of pit lane, and a problem for the 98 Gabby Chavez.
There's another car struggling, and he doesn't want to get on that grass. He does not want. He tried to spin it around, but Castroneves is coming in.
The last of the leaders to come to pit road to take off those rain tires, put on the red tires. We're watching as they try to get going. Now we'll watch where he comes down with his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya. See who's able to pick up some time. Montoya will pass him, but Helio will move into second if he can hold on to it. Will Power on his right-hand side. This is an interesting little race for the teammate.
Wow, Castroneves really closes up right behind Power. I thought he might beat him to turn one, but Will Power with a lap or two on those red slicks, the Firestones, he's going to have temperature, he's going to have grip, and Castro Neves does not. Gabby Chavez still trying to get out of the ball.
He needs to stay on the throttle like Kanan did. Just keep the tires spinning because
it's still high center on that curve. Once he gets to that
now
curve,
he's done
in a high center.
And I think that's exactly what
don't stop. Once you get rolling, you can't stop.
He's done.
Yeah, that's Brian Hurt on the radio trying to coach him and said, "Don't stop." But as you said, Paul, you're stuck literally on the island. Who's this guy? Is he an official?
What he means by high side is the under tray of the car gets up on the curb and the car won't move. You don't see corner workers come out and push cars very often.
That was very surprising.
But
I'm not even sure if he was a corner.
That guy had a button down on and slacks.
So you hear, go to the anti-stall, but it looks like Chavez has lost fire.
All that and then stall it on the pavement.
Gabby, they'll come get you.
Lost fire in his Honda engine out back even after all those efforts, and so we will have to go full course caution. Vast majority of the cars have found pit lane already and made their first stop. They've rolled the dice. They'll see how that plays out. The fans enjoying a good one. Montoya having a good run up front, but this thing far from over from Louisiana. For the film industry as you look down under caution for the first time here in the inaugural visit of the Verizon Indycar Series to Nola Motorsports Park. You can see standing water certainly in the runoff areas, but you guys have talked about how the dry line is beginning to form. You can certainly see it there into the turn 5 area at the lower right section of the screen. The field lines up, looking back a little bit further in the order. It's Chevy's in the first 5, and then Ryan Hunter-Reay in his very familiar number 28, the first Honda in the field. And don't forget, just like at the beginning of the show, you too can be a part of Honda's Fastest Seat and Sports Sweepstakes. You can register and you can go for a ride in the 2-seat IndyCar. Just enter for your chance to lead to the start of a Verizon IndyCar Series. You can do it by going to shophonda.com. Penske cars running 1 through 4. Marty?
I was going to say, Brian, let's chat with Tim Cindric. His man, Will Powers, in second position right now. This is interesting for you strategists, isn't it? It was wet, now it's getting to dry. How tough does that make your job and the driver's job?
Obviously, the driver's job is a lot harder than our job. Sometimes our job is luck of the draw. But you saw there where a lot of guys went to the red tires early, and I think Hunter-Reay certainly made some good gains there. And for us, we're just trying to defend our spot because we had enough gap. So, we're fortunate to be where we are, but I think it's all going to look a lot different here pretty soon.
The challenge now is that was probably earlier in the window than everybody would have liked to have pit. How does that change the race?
It was actually the early window for a 3-stop race. Now it's really a matter of how many cautions there are, and with a time race of 105 minutes, you're really trying to determine are you going to stop once or twice more, and that all has to do with how many cautions you have. So if you know how many laps the race is, you probably have a good idea.
So in essence, the race begins now, is what Tim Cindric is trying to say, guys.
I think we're going to have that problem throughout the day. If we get another shower, well, then the race will start over again. You know, the strategies will change a little bit, and you'll have to kind of reevaluate where you are. The fuel stints are going to be longer when it's raining hard than it is when it's dry. Everything changes.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of these days where it's going to come down to being at the right place at the right time. You know, looking at Ryan Hunter-Reay going back to the first race of the season at St. Pete, he salvaged a 7th place finish by virtue of just staying out of trouble and hanging in there. And so far, it looks like that same mentality has put him to the front, at least of the Honda queue for now. So it could be a good day for those guys carrying forward that strategy.
Looking at the track from the helicopter view here, I mean, we're certainly not out of the woods of it being dry yet. There's a big river, as we see Kanan coming back down the pit lane. This could be some type of a strategy. If, Kevin, you have any information on this.
Well, the last time, as we mentioned, they had a fuel probe problem. That's how Hunter-Reay beat him out of the pit, so they didn't get a full load of Sunoco fuel in, so they're going to take this caution opportunity to do that. Now, I'm surprised they're not making some other adjustments, because Kanan had radioed in a moment ago and saying the car is ahead. I mean, part because he was off track and going through the water, but he did not change tires, and we see some other takers too here on pit road this time.
Looked like the guy was still struggling a little bit to get that probe in. He got beat on the pit lane by a couple guys.
You know, we talked, Paul, you mentioned electronics. One of the other things you've got to be concerned about in the rain is what happens to anything that sleeves metal on metal. Yep. Air checks for Scott Dixon at St. Pete, and we saw issues with fuel probes the last couple of seasons when you get a lot of moisture.
You get that moisture, you get any little bit of grit, it creates problems. Right now, no problems for the fan. They're seeing a great Verizon Indycar Series run, the inaugural run from NOLA. Can Juan Pablo Montoya stay out front? Shot of the Big Easy, one of the most resilient cities with one of the most resilient populations here in the United States. The city, their population has been through a lot, and out of the trials and tribulations of the hurricanes and things that have happened in the past, this great motorsports facility has been built. Chevy's up front 1, 2, 3, and 4, but let's take a look at a couple of our international drivers in our Chevrolet driver profile today. Luca Felipe, 2012 Monza GP2 winner. Winning a race like that in your home country is absolutely huge, and for Felipe, that's huge. Stefano Coletti, another international motorsports star, 2013 Monaco GP2 winner. Kelly?
Coletti right now the biggest mover of the race. He's up 10 spots after starting 20th. He also turned a lot of heads at St. Pete for his ability to pass. He comes here, of course, from GP2, and he said he thinks that's part of the reason he's so good at passing here. He said over in Europe, they don't show you near the respect that they do here in the States. They don't give you nearly as much room. So he's been able to pick his way through the field here, and IndyCar off to a great start.
Well, he hasn't raced against Townsend yet. Wait till he gets to Indy.
Easy thriller. Well, he better not be telling people they're nice to him over here so he gets to go by people. They're not going to be that nice anymore. And GP2, it's the stepping stone to Formula One, so it is a very, very high competitive level of motorsport.
Well, and the GP2 car is a very similar tub to this Dallara car. It's based basically around the same tub. The Indy cars have a different engine package as we're getting ready to come to green here. But the cars are very similar to GP2 cars.
Well, and the new aero packages, I think, are racing very well. We've got Chevrolets up front on the restart. Montoya looks to balk Will Power just a little bit. He does, perhaps trying to get those Firestone slicks dry before he goes back to power in that Chevrolet. Green flag waves. Racing again at NOLA, already cars side by side.
Pretty smooth.
Oh, and already a problem. Jack Hawksworth
and James Jakes. We're still under green, though, so this is live.
Down into turn one, you see Graham Rahal in there as well, and now a problem in one, and I see some bits of front wing there. Is that pretty crazy re-entry into the racetrack? That's Francesco Draconi with a problem in turn one. He started most of that, I think, down there, but side by side.
And we're still green here, which is a surprise because I know we're going to have to go red with Hawksworth stalled over there in the final corner, but this is action. This counts for position.
Got a full course caution now out, the double yellow waves. And we always say yellows breed yellows, and very damp still in turn 13. I think perhaps some of these drivers.
That car there is damaged. It's done for the day. The front left corner is bent over. They let the guys go a little bit there and let them get their positions and make their positions, and then decided to go yellow halfway around.
Brian, you talked about Montoya checking up, but further back here in the corner, there's actually a big puddle that he had to slow up for because he didn't want to have to start applying the power right over that water, so that kind of checked everybody else behind him.
But as the guys further back in the line, they were getting on the power as they were coming out across that river. So pretty smart move by Montoya to wait. As we see, Castro Neves has lost part of his front wing, quite a lot of it. Actually, he's lost all second elements.
He'll have to pit, Paul. That is a massive downforce loss.
He can't run now. It's the whole second element is gone. The rabbit ear is gone. So that is really going to put him behind at the tail end of the line.
Look up at the top of your screen. James Jakes is the one who creates the problem. And then you and I, we talked about the asphalt that's out there on that drag strip, and it's basically kind of the bleach box area for the dragsters. It has no grip, especially in the wet, and that's where Hawksworth's problem was.
Here's what happened with Castro Neves. That's Draconi. Castro Neves trying to sneak inside to get around Draconi. And Draconi's turning in, and Castroneves lost the front end there of the left side of his wing. That piece of concrete you talked about in the final corner, it's a lot like a slick track. If you've ever been to one of those, that concrete's got almost no grip in the dry, it seems, and in the wet it's even worse. As probably Draconi, I would imagine, yeah, he's got a flat right rear and a damaged left front from that contact.
It looked like the Honda was carrying a little bit of Chevy aerodynamics up underneath the front. He had one of those rabbit ears underneath the left front, so Draconi with damage to the right rear tire created by...
Boy, you really feel for Hawksworth. I mean, he's just trying to avoid the spinning car, and then he hits a very wet, slick concrete section, and that's a tough way to end. You can see how frustrated he is.
And, you know, he fought back and forth at St. Pete to stay in the hunt and battled all day long. And I think AJ Foyt Racing looks at Jack Hawksworth and really thinks, you know, this guy could be the future of our team. He could really lead us through. He started, you know, a little bit further back at St. Pete, but moved forward. But
I think, you know, his race, Brian, last year where he really made his mark was at the Indianapolis Grand Prix.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he just walked away from the field in the dry. He was sensational, and then sort of an awkward strategy call put him back in a bad situation for the result. But he looked to be the dominant car at Indy, really put him on the map.
So the lifts will come out. There's a look of Juan Pablo Montoya. Remember, it's adrenaline on demand. Just download the IndyCar 15 mobile app to get all kinds of amazing shots and live streams from the onboard cameras and more, and it's only from Verizon. Full course caution out again from Nola Motorsports Park after the problem on the restart. It'll be interesting to see, do the Hondas have anything for Chevrolet here in Louisiana?
Formula One World Championship took place in Shanghai, China. Lewis Hamilton, the favourite, and why not? He was the fastest all weekend long. Ferrari's new man, Sebastian Vettel, fresh from his win in Malaysia, pushed the Mercedes duo all race long, but couldn't do anything about the brutal speed of the Silver Arrows. There was a late race safety car and bunched the field, but in the end it did not change the outcome. For the 4th time in his career, Lewis Hamilton wins on the Shanghai International Circuit, more than any other driver, and he extends his World Championship lead. It was another Mercedes 1-2, Vettel finishing on the podium for the 3rd time in as many races this year. The championship moves to Bahrain next weekend, and Lewis Hamilton will again be the man to beat. Brian, the championship is hotting up.
I think everything is hotting up. I think I understand the press conference afterwards was a little...
Apparently Rosberg and Hamilton are their rekindled friendship has already expired. Also great to see Ferrari. I understand Raikkonen's pace was exceptional. It's fun to see those guys get their mojo back. So.
Absolutely, and as Lee said, don't forget Formula One's heading to the Persian Gulf, the Bahrain Grand Prix, live here on NBCSN next Sunday morning, 10:30 Eastern. We'll see you. It stays hotted up, as Lee likes to say. Speaking of hotted up, Robin Miller, what do you have down in pit lane?
Well, not a good story, Jackson. You just get the wrong place at the wrong time. Not your fault. Just no chance at all to miss it.
Yeah, I mean, I was right behind him. He was really struggling. For some reason, he was lagging back a bit, and then just span on the last corner. I had nowhere to go. So very disappointing because we've been hanging on in the wet, and it just gone onto the slick. So maybe we can make something happen in those conditions. But what can you do? It's just there's really nothing to say about that. Apart from you say wrong place and wrong time.
How was the track in general to start to when you finally get put out?
I mean, now it's just good enough for slicks now. I think that. Red. I think this next restart should be a bit cleaner, and I think once they get going, the track is going to quickly dry, and I think it'll be full dry by the end of the race.
All right, better luck in Long Beach. Back to you guys.
Yeah, as I said, Jack Hawksworth, a great run from 21st to 8th. He ran as high as 3rd at St. Pete. Montoya is still up front. The important thing is to make sure that you've got good communication with your crew during a race like this, because things are going to change throughout.
They got to do something about the back straight, my friend. They really got to bring the dryer and blow some water out of the way there. It's gonna have a massive shunt there.
And talking about that water we mentioned earlier, that's what you say when you're leading too. It's like, hey, listen, somebody come out and clean up my canvas here. I got to go to work. I'm an artist.
Content, they call that in basketball, running the clock down, right?
Yeah. Well, but he brings up a good point. If you've got a full course caution, take the opportunity to get that cleaned off a little bit if you can. The problem is that back straightaway has a pretty discernible dip in it. Well, where does water go? It goes to the low point, and that's pretty much where it is.
I thought we were already below sea level here.
Well, we kind of are below sea level. I don't know if the track actually is. But you look further back, and you see Simona Di Silvestro in the number 25, the Honda entry, from 18th to 8th. So Simona Di Silvestro, our biggest mover right now through the field, and it's great to see her back in the Verizon Indycar Series.
You got to appreciate she hasn't driven a car since June of last year.
Crowd not going anywhere. We'll see if Simona can keep her march forward moving. When you come back to Townsendville, you weren't.
Well, Paul is entertaining. I don't know about art. I don't know there's a whole lot of art. Well, Black Label Baggers.
Plenty of body art, that's for sure.
Plenty of body art. You see 1 lap to go for the Indy cars here before we get back to green flag racing. And the track's still damp in places and offline, still downright wet. You can see the sheen, and basically anywhere where you see that sheen, you know that it's still slick.
Well, this is
and
the problem.
in pit lane.
This is the problem. Tires cool down, or you get out on cold tires. We have a crew member down, unfortunately, there.
Francesco Draconi.
Oh, not what we want to see.
Guy that's on the ground is.
That's with Dale Coyne's
up
team.
against the wall there with his head, so they're not moving him as a precaution. I would assume if he got kicked over into the wall over there by the car.
No, and they're going to do everything that they can to take care. And it's a great IndyCar safety crew here.
And you can see that Coyne crew member with the hand jack is furious, as if there was a miscommunication, or he's clearly upset with somebody.
He's upset that one of his good friends and teammates is obviously injured, and will let their safety crew, and we said every one of us has spent time in the cockpit of an IndyCar, and there's no better safety crew around than the guys here at the racetrack, and they will tend to the crew members just as they will tend to any driver that's injured on the racetrack.
And best in the business, and they're always there so fast. You know, it's amazing. So we'll certainly hope for the best down there on pit lanes. Montoya's back up front, and he's sort of getting what he asked for. That track continues to dry in front of him.
And as we run around under yellow here, I'm looking out of our booth, and there's more dark clouds rolling in here. So everything might change again. So they're wanting to run in the dry, but as we look at the sky here in the shot, the clouds are getting darker. So.
Well, you talk about the weather that's coming in, and you see it from the southwest coming across and moving up. It's almost made it to the land now, and I'd say we probably have another good hour of dry, I would think, but we're going to need all of that to get to the end of this race. 25 laps in the books right now, and the estimation could be as many as 61 could be run in the time that we've got allotted.
And Marty's been down there working on that estimation. Marty, what can you tell us about how the teams project how long the race will run?
Well, Townsend, that's the question all the drivers want to know. How long is this race actually going to be? We're clearly now in a timed race situation. We just saw the weather that is approaching. So Tim Cindric a moment ago was on the radio to Will Power about when exactly this race is going to be over. Power want to know how many laps are going to be left in this race. And the teams actually have, and Cindric can look at a computer that will predict the amount of laps the race is going to be under a timed race scenario. Basically, it takes the last 3 green flag laps, averages those out, and says if we run green flag, we'll have this many laps. By these teams' estimations, we're looking at a 61-lap race or so. So that's what the teams are now shooting for, about 61 laps, basing on that, their strategy. Robin?
Marty, it's Todd Phillips, the chief mechanic, that got hit by Dracone as he was leaving and slapped him into the wall, and they just got him sitting down on the pit wall, so we're not sure how bad his injuries are, but he took a big hit. He's talking. He's just not, he's conscious and everything. I think it might be his leg. I just can't see. There's so many firemen in the way. Okay, back to you guys.
Always good to see them up, but it'll be the officials, the medical officials that take care of him, and that's what we were talking about. So important that you have quality medical care like that on site. It's really one of the reasons we couldn't do the warm-up this morning. The helicopter didn't have the ability to get in and out, and they were not about to run these cars without the ability to have a helicopter.
Well, as we come back to the restart, the issue that we saw in pit lane is grip on slick tires. Now, as you run under yellow, the tires do cool down, and they say cautions breed cautions, and this is exactly why. A lot of damp areas still. Without tire temp, it's going to be very tricky to keep things clean and tidy.
You see Ray Hall here, his onboard. He's actually had a good race, moving through the field. He's now running in 5th spot, so this would be a great event for him. He's had a lot of changes over the winter. They had the big budget last year. They've really had to scale it back. His dad has stepped off the timing box doing the radio, so he's got a bunch of new crew guys and engineers. So as we look at Kanaan here, Kevin.
I think we've had our first in-race trade among crew guys. Chip Ganassi about 10 minutes ago, and the Tony Kanaan team has had some fuel probe issues. Chip got off the stand, walked down to the 9 box, and took their fueler. You see him there in the Brita colors, and now he's going to fuel the 10 team, and the 10 team fueler went down. He's handling the 9 the rest of this race.
Wow. So the boss rules, right?
Explain that to me, boys.
I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out.
I don't know that I've seen that before. I've certainly seen crews lent to others who might need it, but not trades amongst teammates. Let's get back to green flag racing. The green flag waves. Montoya leads Power, but Power has been closing down. And I'll tell you who's closing down. Simon Pagenaud in the yellow and white. Third car in the
Coletti. Stefano Coletti backwards at 150 miles an hour into the wall.
Big contact. It comes back on the racetrack and misses everyone. Simon Pagenaud, the third car in the order, was beginning to put pressure on Will Power when the excitement happened in the back.
And we're full course caution. Wow.
I don't know what happened there, but he like lost it in the straightaway. Either he got hit by somebody or turned around.
I can't believe that car is still under power going around the track. That was a massive off.
Shedding parts. I saw another bit of debris come off and fly off into the distance. Gabby Chavez there in the 98. I don't know if he was part of it. Chavez having a bad day after going off track a little bit earlier. There's Coletti, rear wing deranged.
You know, we had talked about those Armco guardrails being planted. You know, it's very soft soil here. And I wonder if there was so much deflection in the post. Paul, you've got some experience.
Yeah, but the thing is, he nearly got through the hole in the guardrail. There was a gap, and he nearly got through the gap of it.
On board with Scott Dixon.
All clear right here by 2. Still 2 back. Stage right here.
Got an aquaplane at 150 miles an hour. So that section, that shows you those little wet patches.
Watch this.
There's water to the right of your screen. Coletti will be coming along under the stand right now. And
look at the hole in the fence here.
Watch this.
It's either the water or the paint.
I mean, he's sliding 600-700 yards. He gets that Armco really well with the right rear. I can't imagine that he's going to be able to continue.
Look again, he's to the right, and the car just makes a violent turn. There's nothing Coletti can do. He never even knew it was coming. No even precursor to it.
Yeah, it's a very hard hit, but on a closer look, it's almost like it bounced off the attenuator, Paul, and didn't get the suspension.
I think it could be a wing change, we hope. Get him back in the race. He's been sensational.
Up to your left.
All clear right here by 2. Still 2 back.
Looked like it was a combination of the paint and a puddle.
Yeah. I promise you, Montoya's on the radio now saying, I told you, keep drawing that track. So we watch from another angle.
Yeah, the guardrail doesn't move. It's pretty firmly planted. I think you may be right. I think the attenuator absorbed most of the impact.
Let's see what the guys assess here on pit lane. He almost loses it there coming to pit lane. Kelly?
As we see Coletti come to a stop, and obviously they're going to have to replace both that nose and the rear wing assembly. And parts are at a minimum for all these teams at this point. We've already heard other teams, Sage Karam saying, be careful, we have no spares. But you see they got that front wing on smoothly, still working on the rear. We see a mechanic shaking his head like there might be an issue, some damage that's holding this process up that they couldn't get. They can't get that rear wing assembly on. They've just told them, yep, to kill the engine.
I believe I heard them come on the radio and say damage to the gearbox.
Yeah, it was Steve Moore, his radio guy, who was my crew chief at Forsyth for my whole careers. On the radio with him, he said the gearbox is damaged, probably cracked, more than likely.
You would think. I mean, it was stunning to me, as to you, Townsend, obviously, that there wasn't more damage to the back. All that energy has to go somewhere. And obviously, it went into the gearbox, so the gearbox now damaged. And the drivers now beginning to say, hey, wait, when that full course caution came out, maybe there was some passing going on. I know Sebastian Bourdais, a part of that mix and some of the chatter on the radio.
Well, let's watch closely here. This is a great overhead view. You see Ray Hall, green's out. He got a good jump on Bourdais. I would assume the green's out. Everybody else was going, so.
Yeah, that was just clean
and
start.
there comes Hunter Ray to the outside.
So Graham by easily and Hunter Ray to the outside. Now he's in a good dry spot in the braking zone. Bourdais tries to stay there. Meanwhile, the excitement's happening behind them.
And the key here is when the green flag comes out. It has nothing to do with start and finish.
Ready, green.
Yeah, that's legal.
Perfect timing.
Now, the only exception is IndyCar typically asks the drivers to stay in column file until the green comes out. So it could go either way here. I could see a 50-50 situation.
Yeah, but you can argue that, hey, it's wet, there's spray, I want to see what's going on. I just think that was a great start by Graham.
Marty?
Well, boys, as you would imagine, Jimmy Vasser and Sebastian Bourdais don't quite see it that way. They have officially protested that move by both Graham Rahal and Ryan Hunter-Reay, saying that they passed them before the green flag, and so we'll see what comes of this. Kevin?
Well, Marty, I think you might want to let them know. What we saw was that he didn't pass before the green flag, but they were out of line, meaning he wasn't in single file. But as Paul says, this is wet conditions, so it'll be interesting to see where this ends up.
I could see the argument with Graham, but Ryan was further back.
Yeah, I think it was just timed perfectly by Graham, and obviously Ryan got a good restart as well. So I think that's a tough argument for Jimmy. If he didn't get anywhere yesterday, it was questionable. I think that was just you're not going to get anywhere today.
Tony Kanaan leads the field on to pit road. Tony Kanaan leads that group.
And Kanaan is back at the back, so this doesn't really hurt them as far as track position is concerned. They're going to change to a red shed, a sticker red, alternate softer Firestone Firehawks as Helio Castroneves goes by him. This is a much cleaner stop for Kanaan, and he's out.
Well, you're still at the back of the field, guys, but you need to pass cars, and there's no easier way to do it in these conditions than on pit lane. So
this is the way to get to the end of the race, too, without another pit stop under green, possibly.
Well, but if Marty's predictions are correct from Penske, we need 31 laps at this point to make it to the end. That's a tall order.
It's a tall order.
Depending on how many yellows.
When we talk about gambling, teams are already doing it right now. Tony Kanaan letting his strategy be known as they take the opportunity to make a pit stop with 29 laps in the book from here at the Indy Grand Prix of Louisiana. The weather that we've watched over the Gulf of Mexico now beginning to close in on New Orleans, Louisiana, and you can see the skies beginning to darken a bit. Understand that the rain could be just about an hour away. You can see it beginning to make landfall, and there'll be some showers and some squall lines that'll fill in between the main body of rain and where we're located right now here in the next half hour or so. So the strategy that we just saw played by Tony Kanaan, Helio Castroneves, that could be a very valid one.
Now, for those of us that don't read Field and Stream, what is a squall line?
Sorry about that. All right, not only can you follow Verizon Indycar Series, remember every game, every night, don't miss a moment of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. They begin Wednesday on NBC, NBCSN, CNBC, NHL Network, and USA.
Well, guys, as we say under caution, the number comes down for the amount of laps we might get in today. They're looking now at about 56 laps, plus rain is about 20 minutes out, and then the big rain you guys just saw about an hour out. So there's a little bit for these strategists and the drivers to keep up with. But 56 laps, that's the big one they're keeping an eye on right now.
And don't forget the clock as well. 38 minutes to go. So now Juan Pablo Montoya easy over that water where we've seen the problems before, and he'll get good grip with those Firestone tires as he launches off. Graham Rahal with a problem.
Almost lost it. The issues down the front straightaway. There's puddles, so if you're side by side, it is high drama. Montoya leading to turn one.
And Graham tried to make that same move on the outside there, coming to the green, and he caught a puddle, and it got totally sideways on him, which allowed Hunter Ray to get by. As we go inboard with Graham Rahal, he lost one position on that restart, barely kept it out of the wall.
Ryan Hunter-Ray just in front of Rahal. Those are the highest placed Hondas right now in the field. It's Montoya, Power, and Pagano, three Penske teammates running up front. The Castroneves on an alternate fuel and tire strategy.
And these guys are working tire temperature as hard as they can in those long radius infield twisties.
Sebastian Bourdais in the green and white number 11 behind the two bright yellow cars. It's Ryan Hunter-Ray.
Somebody's off.
Then Rahal.
That's Sage Karam, I believe.
And if he can keep the car moving or get it moving, as long as there's and it's dead in the water.
Like stalled, yeah.
His visor is up, and that signifies to the crew workers that the engine is stalled. And for Sage Karam, brings out another full course caution.
And guys, these yellows play right into the hand of Helio Castroneves. He was the first guy to take that last pit stop on lap 29, and every yellow helps. Let's watch Graham Rahal's dramatic and dynamic on board on this restart.
So we talk about all the damp areas. Listen, wheel spin.
Get ready, green, green, green.
Wow, great car control.
But it allows Ryan Hunter-Ray to get the run, but then watch down in turn one. Graham tries to take it back.
Oh, thread the needle on that one, but there wasn't any room there.
I'll bet those mandatory reinforcements that came to the Honda front wing came in handy right there.
They may have come in handy. That was Honda versus Honda down into turn one, and you saw Sage Karam sitting in his car, and his body language said a lot, didn't it? His head was back on the headrest, and you know he was thinking.
Well, we had that sit down with Sage, and as you might have heard, the big preseason test at Barber, I think 2 laps or maybe even his out lap, he had a massive off, destroyed the car, had to call Chip. That set him back with the hand injury going into St. Pete. He hung on there, didn't have a great finish. And he's, this kind of thing just puts you further and further behind the ball for that very important learning process. Hugely talented driver, and I'm sure he's frustrated.
You can just see it in his eyes, and there's so much story to be read there just in his eyes that you can see. You can tell that he's disappointed, and perhaps disappointed in himself. We didn't see what caused the off there, but Sage looking very dejected, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm sure he's disappointed sitting there in the cockpit. Remember, he had that contact early on with his teammate Charlie Kimball, and the team has been coming on the radio just telling him to relax, saying, hey, no more mistakes, just focus on the racing. This, of course, was prior to him going off here, but he only has a ride through the month of May through the Indy 500, and I asked him if that put some pressure on him, and he said certainly it does. That, in addition to being a part of Chip Ganassi racing and racing with some of those legends, guys he grew up watching racing, so that puts a lot of pressure on him too. He really just wanted to focus on completing laps, completing races, so this is certainly going to be a disappointing way to go out here in NOLA.
And Paul, it's frustrating to go around, end up in the gravel trap, but the added frustration comes when the pace car comes around with the field and you realize I'm a lap down.
Well, and I've been in that situation that he's in. When I first started my career, I was a part-time driver for Penske in a big team like he's in with Ganassi. And, you get your opportunity and you want to show everybody what you can do and how good you are, and certainly I've gone through the same struggles that Sage
So what
is
do you
going
do?
through.
Well, the one thing that you cannot make up for is experience.
Yep.
And that's what puts him further behind now, is that big off at Barber. We talked to Dario Franchitti, who's really coaching Sage through this whole process of being a rookie. And Dario said the biggest thing he lost at Barber was not just destroying the car, it was the experience of learning save fuel, the experience of running long runs and what the tires are going to do. And we understand the pits are open, so we'll see how many head to pit lane.
Juan Pablo Montoya, and you would expect the rest of the field to follow him in. Montoya the first to hit pit lane, because of course he's out in front, but everybody else doing the same thing. It'll be interesting to see how far Castroneves and Canan move up on their alternate strategy. Kevin?
Brian, the chatter I'm hearing is that those that are pitting right now will probably make it the rest of the way, but they will likely need another yellow to be able to get home. Ryan Hunter-Reay comes in. He's up to fourth. Let's see who's going to win this race off pit road. No changes for Hunter-Reay, Marty.
Kevin, they will need a little bit of yellow, because in essence the teams are thinking we have 23 laps left in this race. Race off of pit road between teammates. Montoya wins that race. Will Power will come off second, and Simon Pagenaud leaves pit road in third.
Looks like exceptional pit work all up and down with the leaders. Nobody really gained or lost, it seems.
Montoya's crew was like a textbook stop. He was the first guy to hit it, the first guy gone, and just a beautiful stop.
Such an advantage to be pitted at the front of the queue in a situation like that. You saw Hunter-Reay nailed it on his entry, but had a hard time getting out of his box with the traffic.
It was pit stops that won the race at St. Petersburg for Juan Pablo Montoya. Will that be the same here in New Orleans? Pit stops accomplished under this full course caution. The field back on the racetrack looking to get back to green as the laps and the time counting down here from Nola Motorsports Park. There's Graham Rahal. See if Paul Tracy can talk to him on the radio.
Hey, Graham, PT up here in the booth, man. You're kicking some butt out there today. You're the mover of the race so far. You had a killer restart on board A, but that last one, you barely kept it out of the wall. You think you can give us another good restart, maybe get up to the podium?
Yeah, man, I think the DA Lubricants car feels pretty good here today. It's tricky conditions with the drying track here, but yeah, we got to keep clean here and stay out of trouble. Keep getting some good restarts. I just got my shifting, my timing wrong there in the last one, but hopefully we can keep moving on forward.
Thank you. Good luck, buddy.
Thanks, man.
So Graham Rahal getting ready to get back to work from here at Nola Motorsports Park. We'll see if he can get his luck changed and move forward. Rained earlier today at NOLA. That is not the racetrack. That's the bay off to the south. But there is the racetrack. And the cars getting ready to get back to racing here under full course caution. It's James Hinchcliffe who is out in front. Kelly?
And he inherited the lead by way of staying out during that last round of pit stops here under caution. And the guys telling Hinch over the radio said the goal right now is just to run hard. We're going to see what happens with the weather. So they're banking on some rain coming in, Kevin.
Kanan is running in fifth. He pitted earlier than those that just did on lap 29. He was told you can push hard, at least until we tell you to start saving.
James Hinchcliffe out in front. The last time he pitted was lap 13. It is now lap 35. Huertas right behind him.
And there goes Huertas.
There goes Huertas. And we keep saying yellows breed yellows. The green flag does not come out. It stays yellow because of the problem with Huertas onto the front straightaway. Castroneves, Jakes, the rest of the field moves forward.
Is it running?
And the problem is that you've got a big puddle right in the last corner where everybody's trying to get the power for the restart.
Still a river going across right through just past the apex at the exit there. And But now the guys, it's getting drier, and the guys are pushing the restart a little harder now.
Well, and that was going to be my point.
You can see that river just going right across.
That water's been there on every restart they've made, though. So you start looking at it and you go, guys, the excuses start going away. You know that water's there each time. I know that you're racing. I know you want to get this start and get a good jump, but you got to get past the hurdle first to get it done.
Right now on the clock, I show 27, maybe 26 some odd minutes left to go if this is a timed race. Every time this happens and we go to yellow, I mean, Hinchcliffe's only made one stop. He could just nurse it around under yellow and end up winning this thing.
At this point now, you've almost got to roll the dice and go for it because, he's had such a disastrous weekend. He's had a couple of big offs, and if you were able to pull a win out of a rabbit out of the hat, that would turn your season around.
So I wonder if Kanan gets that position as we watched on board. There was a moment of green, 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 and then the yellow came out. It looks like he got that spot on Simona, so we'll see how they reshuffle the field here.
So problems for Carlos Huertas. He won in the rain. Remember, his only win was at Houston in the rain last year playing strategy. Keep a track of our Chevy driver update. Castroneves sits second, then Kanan, Montoya second, fourth, sixth, and seventh. And we've got a Honda up front, which we were not able to say at St. Petersburg. It'll be interesting to see. I can't see James Hinchcliffe getting that out, but when you go back a little bit further, Castroneves, James Jakes, Tony Kanan, Simona Di Silvestro, perhaps they've played their hand perfectly. It'll be interesting to see.
It's been difficult to assess any sort of Chevy versus Honda advantage today. It's largely circumstantial, but yeah, Castroneves could pull off the miracle here, and you just don't know.
James Jakes, his return to the IndyCar Series. He didn't run here last year, and I was very impressed with his performance at St. Petersburg. Coletti, they obviously have made repairs to the gearbox. He was back out and now heads back to pit road, I would assume, to check some things over and make sure that there are no more leaks or that the problems have been fixed. But I got to tell you, I'm stunned with the resilience of that car.
And that puddle that is right at the pit out is still going to be a big problem when these guys fan out on the restart. So there's still a lot of danger areas. Robin, you got anything on Jakes?
Well, think about this, boys. Yesterday he was in the top 12. He was going to be in the fast 12 for sure before everything got canceled. So he had to start 22nd today. He missed all last year, didn't get to run an IndyCar. And at the end of 2013, he was running better than Graham Rahal about half the races. So he was coming on when he had to take a whole year off. So I'd say he just needs more laps.
Well, it's somewhat similar for Simona Di Silvestro. She hasn't raced in a year. She's done some driving. But you guys have been out of a car and then gotten back in. The speed seems to come back to you easily, but it's the racecraft and the decision-making that sometimes seems to lag behind. I think we saw that with Simona at St. Pete as well.
Yeah, I think there's really, I'd put it in hundreds of little things, Paul, wouldn't you say? I mean, when you're out of the car for a while, it's not that you forget how to drive, but there's so many subtleties, and it's all the details. When you add those up, that's what makes the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for myself, I had such a bank of experience that I could get out of a car for a while and get back in and be okay. But when you don't have a lot of experience, like Jakes and Simona, you've only got a couple of years on your belt. You take a year off. That's a long layoff.
Well, and the sport doesn't stay the same, right? Things evolve. Technology evolves. The setup changes. And it does wait for you.
So great to have IndyCar back on NBC again. Next week, Long Beach, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There is a way for you to keep up with the Verizon IndyCar Series. Practices on IndyCar.com. You see the IndyCar Countdown Special, 5 Eastern Time on Friday on NBCSN. You can look through the rest of the special. Just think about that. Formula One, NASCAR, and the Verizon IndyCar Series here on NBCSN. Coming up next week, Long Beach. The weekend after that, Barber Motorsports Park. So 3 weekends in a row for the Verizon IndyCar Series.
As we get down towards the end of the race, I mean, the guy who's really struggled today is Dixon. He's not really moved anywhere all day.
Difficult for him to do, and you see the fans beginning to put on ponchos. I think we're getting a little bit of moisture falling. The complexion of this race may change yet again. with moisture beginning to fall here at Nola Motorsports Park, James Hinchcliffe brings the field back around for the restart. Hinchcliffe last pitted on lap 13. We're now on lap 38. With these full course cautions we've had over the last couple of restarts, Hinchcliffe has been able to stay out, and with rain beginning to fall,
We've
do you
had
think there's any way he can make it to the end?
We've had next to no green flag running, and there's a very high probability, in fact, like 100% chance of a yellow based on recent history. Let's see what happens here.
Elio Castroneves right behind in his Penske Chevrolet. Castroneves will be beginning to put pressure, and you got to think that for Hinchcliffe, he's going to have to run pretty lean on the fuel to get it done. So Hinchcliffe takes off at the drop of the green. Right behind him, Castroneves. You look back to the next two cars in the serial having a great run. James Jakes in the number 7 out in front. Tony Kanaan in that bright blue right behind. Kanaan now in his number 10 beginning to put pressure on James Jakes.
Kanaan, the restart master, wanted that position badly, but Jakes fought back, and now he's right on the tail of Castroneves.
And our screen lit up like a Christmas tree as everybody was on push to pass, knowing that this could be the final chance to make positions. Here's where it's going to get tough, guys. As they get to the backside of the track, you've got that big puddle in the fast chicane.
We could be looking at a Sam Schmidt if Jakes gets there, a Sam Schmidt 1-2, which is probably the first time ever.
And this is not what James Hinchcliffe wanted to see. He wanted to see another waving yellow on the restart. Everyone behaved and got through cleanly, at least for the first portion of this lap, as James Jakes now beginning to put pressure on the red and white number 3 of Elio Castroneves just in front.
There's that little puddle still. You saw Castroneves got a big
still
wiggle. This is where it's tough.
All of that has allowed Tony Kanaan, the 4th car in the serial, the bright blue number 10.
Montoya.
And look at Montoya in the number 2. Getting past Will Power, and you know that has to get into Will Power's head. It was Montoya who stayed in front to take the victory at St. Petersburg. Very frustrating for Will Power.
Montoya knows now, I'm not in control of the race. These guys are all going to gamble. I've got to make it happen. He's got to go. There's no laying back and waiting it out.
Simona Paul goes to P4, passes Kanaan down the front straightaway.
Still several push-to-passes left for Tony Kanaan. Juan Montoya down to 6. Will Power only has 3 remaining. James Jakes around Castroneves.
What a move.
And Castroneves made it hard on him, moved over, but he got the over-under here as there's debris in the corner from contact.
Was contact back in the field, obviously, on that first lap. But wow.
And here's what the debris was from. This is on board with Charlie Kimball. He's looking up the inside of Marco Andretti. Oh, he almost went around. Heck of a save. That was opposite lock, folks. If you've heard the term, that qualifies.
But it's interesting, he got together with the right side, but the damage was on the left side.
Somebody must have had a wheel up on there.
Jake's still putting the pressure on Castroneves. He gets sideways there. We go yellow again.
What can James Jakes do? And now a problem. It is Sage Karam once again with a problem. Onto the front straightaway, stalled there, brings out the full course caution. This is what James Hinchcliffe needs. And there are the eyes.
The eyes of, what am I going to do when I get back to the truck?
Yeah, they've gone from frustration to just total despair.
And
it's been a tough day.
Yep, it has. And as I was saying to you earlier, Paul, you've been there. I can remember a little damage on some Penske cars. What do you have to do to regroup?
Well, as you regroup, I mean, he's just basically, as we see some replay here, nice pass here down the front straightaway by Simona. She had it done before the start-finish line, so Tony must have got sideways off the corner.
So Will Power get past Ryan Hunter-Ray in the bright yellow number 28 from on board with Tony Kanaan.
Look, he was just in the wrong gear, like he was in a gear too high. And Simona just drove on by, easy pass.
I think she was on the button too, push to pass. Guys, we're looking at 13 minutes left to go here. As you see the clock in the upper right-hand corner counting down. I mean, look at those guys. Hinchcliffe, Castroneves. I mean, Simona, she's 2 passes away from winning her first race if Hinchcliffe has to pit.
Kelly?
Robert Gouet, call strategy here for James Hinchcliffe, and I'm sure this full course caution is a welcome relief, but how hard can he push it here with about 13 minutes to go?
we have a little bit of fuel left. We're obviously gambled on the yellows coming out, and we should be okay to just keep pushing hard and see what happens. We've committed to our strategy now, and that's what we're going to do.
I see your guys on the wall here ready to go, but any chance you bring them in?
No chance we're going to bring them in now. We're going to run the strategy to the end.
All right, we'll see. We've got 12 minutes to go, and we'll see if this plays out for Sam Schmidt, Peterson Motorsports.
Silvestro has certainly had an impressive day, starting in the back, working her way all the way up to the 4th position. Rob Edwards now with Andretti Autosport calling her a race. What have you seen from this young lady today in a track she had never been to, and she's the only one?
Yeah, I mean, she's just driving a heck of a race, isn't she? As you say, she hadn't seen the track before Friday. I think, the more we run, she's just getting in a rhythm, and the race is coming to her as we're in that rhythm.
You're fine on fuel?
We're good on fuel.
Does she have anything for the leaders at the finish?
Depends what the other guys have got. I think we're in pretty good shape, but we'll see what they've got.
Rob Edwards on the stand for the 25 car with Andretti Autosport.
Well, Kevin, the man sitting in second is Helio Castroneves. Talked to Roger Penske moments ago. Helio right now has a bit of an understeer in the car. That's what's happening to him right now. Hard to get the car to turn off of the corners. He is better by 16 laps on tires than the man in front of him, James Hinchcliffe. We'll see if he can use those tires to his advantage, and Helio Castroneves can steal a win here in New Orleans. Back with the finish coming up shortly.
You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by thetirerack.com. Find, deliver, install Tire Rack. And by Steak and Shake, home of the original steak burger, proud sponsor of number 15, Graham Rahal. Could use a steak burger right about now.
I always wanted to try one of those things.
You've never eaten a steak burger? I'm concerned about you. You're an In-N-Out guy. You're from California.
Yeah,
I knew it.
Here we go.
Here we go. This is it. James Hinchcliffe rolling the dice, betting it all that they'll have enough fuel in that Honda-powered Indy car that he's piloting onto the front straightaway for the restart. Green flag waves. We're racing again in New Orleans.
And he gets away. Hinchcliffe got a great restart. We see second and third here.
Oh, Simona Di Silvestro looks up the inside. That's not going to work, but Castroneves.
Jake's pushing on him.
Castroneves past James Jakes, holds that position. Simona Di Silvestro got another fantastic restart. Just ran out of dry pavement. Tony Kanaan now putting pressure on the back of Di Silvestro. Your ride with Kanaan.
When you sit this low to the ground as you do in an IndyCar, it's impossible to see those puddles. as you're racing up behind somebody's gearbox. That's Bourdais, Hunter Ray, and Simon Pagenaud. Big contact into the tires for Bourdais. 3 cars at least are off.
Ryan Hunter Ray, Sebastian Bourdais.
Don't really think there's much damage to his car.
If he can get it in gear,
Yeah, I'm all right.
if he can get it in gear, he'd stay on the lead lap. But that one's
See the
not.
22 of Simon Pagenaud. Belts off, steering wheel off. He's climbing out. He does not look happy.
He's mad at somebody, so
He's
might
not
be
waving
words.
to the fans, I promise you that.
Everybody knew the time was running out. Ryan Hunter Ray, knowing the time was running out, trying to get positions in these closing stages.
This could run the clock.
Pagenaud
right
not happy with Bourdais walking over to the number 11.
Paul, you're right. I don't think he's asking if he's okay.
Exchanging words right now as Bourdais stays in the car.
Is that in French or English, you figure?
Good?
Simon walking away. And Ryan Hunter Ray staying in his car, seeing if they can get that restarted because he wants to get back out and collect points. That's pretty much what he did at St. Pete. He just kind of hung in there all day and managed to finish 7th. Now Pagenaud having words with Hunter Ray.
A lot of words being spoken here. Pagenaud and Bourdais were teammates at Peugeot in Le Mans, and you're going to Le Mans, so it would be interesting to see what the take is by all these guys, how they feel about whose fault was what. There's a lot of damage to the side of Bourdais' car.
We didn't see that earlier. Gives you a sense of how thin the bodywork is on these things now. And, you know, listen, these are 3 guys that are all, you know, some of the best in the business. They're all race winners, tons of experience, championship pedigree. They've, you know, 2 of the 3 of them have won championships in IndyCar. And
Simon not.
Yeah, he seems
not
the most
letting
animated.
it go. Yep, he is the most animated of the 3. So if we can see what happens.
He's off. He's off on his own. Yeah.
Was he off on his own, or was it contact with Hunter Ray?
Jeez. That impact from Hunter Ray's car to
Looked like
Bourdais
Simon was going to the outside of Hunter Ray. The question is, when did he get there? How long was he there, etc.?
So you're on board with Graham Rahal. You see Pagenaud on the outside, the car to the right up front. Just had no room, and then comes back across. He ran out of room at the exit, and I'm not sure if he ran out or
but
Hunter Ray
don't
ran him
forget,
out.
Hunter Ray had a car to his left.
3 wide on this track.
You know, Hunter Ray's there. He knows Bourdais on the inside. You know, so
that attenuator that nearly got into the side of the tub where Bourdais' head is.
It's hard to put a fault on anybody there. That's 3 guys trying to go for it, but thinking they're leaving each other room.
Ryan Hunter Ray has given up the ship now, and he has climbed out, so his day is done. Let's listen.
I'm sure Pagenaud's frustrated, but Paul, when you're on the outside of somebody, they're not looking in their right side mirror in a left-hand
He's got
corner.
Bourdais on his inside.
Yeah. And it's
the other
wet.
guy on
It's
his
wet.
outside. It's wet, cold tires, car slipping, sliding. It was pretty over-optimistic by Pagenaud. A lot of damage. I'm sure the blame game will be in full effect on this one.
And the fortunate benefactor of all of this is James Hinchcliffe, who remains in the lead. 1 pit stop today on lap number 13.
And I'm not even sure if he needed that pit stop. No, based on the amount of yellow we've had.
You know, his first season that he had at Andretti Green, he came out of the blocks so strong with 3 wins, had a great season, but last year was a huge struggle for him, and to bounce back now and get a win would obviously be a good shot in the arm.
Look at the clock. 3 minutes and 40 seconds and counting to go, and for James Hinchcliffe, they rolled the dice. Does he still have enough fuel in his tank to make it around behind the safety car? Because this was a huge gamble. They didn't have a car that worked for them throughout the weekend. They knew they would have to go off strategy to get something done. Can James Hinchcliffe find his 4th victory in the Verizon Indycar Series? And if he does, it came at the hands of some really smart guys sitting on the box that were willing to crunch the numbers and roll the dice.
Well, it's all about rolling the dice, I think, in the end. But you've got to have the courage to make those calls. And to James's credit, you've got to have the skill to just stay out of trouble and keep it on the island. Now look at this. We could be in a situation with somebody like Hinchcliffe winning a race like this. This is number of different winners in previous seasons. 2014, last season, was an all-time high. 11 different winners in one season. You never know, guys. We could be setting a record again.
Well, it shows you the competitive nature, I think, of the series. Paul, we were talking about this the other day. You see that number, and it's impressive. And when you look at some of the starting positions and where the pole sitter tends to finish over the last couple of years and where the race winners are coming from, they're coming from 8th, 9th, and 10th on the grid because there's a lot of strategy being played, and the competitive nature of the series right now is at an all-time high.
Well, and I agree. And the speed of the cars, now the guys that are actually had a bad qualifying are actually as quick, as in most cases, as quick as the leaders. So if you call the right strategy like the Sam Schmidt team has done with both of their cars, they're both fast enough. And we saw Hinchcliffe struggled, had a lot of spins during the weekend, but cycle the guy to the front, and he's able to control the pace of the race, and now he's in control here. So,
Paul, to your point, if you're qualified, let's say 19th in this series in the dry right now, you're talking only about half a second, 6/10. 10 years ago, it was nothing like that. You'd talk about half a second separating the top three. It's just completely changed the game.
Maybe a second through the top 10, but then it dropped off dramatically after that. Now, we understand there will be a review of the incident between the 22, the 28, and I say the 11. I mean,
what is there to review? They're all out.
Yeah, Bourdais was an innocent victim in all of that, I think, but they'll review it and see if any penalties will be applied. But as you said, you know, what do you do? They're all out of the race. So as you see Bourdais' damaged machine.
You know, it's amazing. We started off the race in the worst conditions that you could have, and everybody was minding their P's and Q's. We got quite a long way with no yellows, and since it started to dry, everybody went berserk on these restarts.
Yeah, and I think Pagano's, you know, he's at Team Penske now, championship contender last season, and he's thinking points, right? He's all about the points haul, and he's got 3 very quick teammates, and I'm sure that plays heavily into his increased aggravation. But I think when he looks at the video and talks to everybody, he'll realize, listen, nothing was intentional there, and 3 guys wide in wet conditions on cold tires.
And the new home there at Penske Motorsports, Paul, you talked about the pressure that's on you to do well. You're a known commodity, you're a race winner, but you want to be up there in that championship hunt. You've got,
for sure, you know, you go your whole career as a driver coming up and saying, man, I wish I was in one of those Penske cars. And when you finally get the opportunity and the results aren't coming, as we see the white flag come out, and it's going to be James Hinchcliffe's day.
The pace car to slow down again.
He can get it around this last lap without any problems. What a day for him. But as I said, you finally get your opportunity to get to the top level team, and the results don't come. That is really frustrating.
And what a day for Castroneves. I mean, he's another one that is really, I guess, lucked out. Teams called the right strategy. He was obviously had the contact early on, but to come home with a podium finish, finished 4th, I believe, there at St. Petersburg. So from a points championship standpoint, that puts him in good standing. Montoya will come home 5th if he keeps it together here on this final lap.
34 laps if James Hinchcliffe makes it back around to the checker flag that he will have run on his load of fuel. And it's one of those deals, too, that I think it really shows that you're never out of it. I mean, this is in Verizon Indycar Series, you're never out of it. You've got to spend the time to fight your way back in, use strategy, use track position to do it. Look at Simona Di Silvestro, James Jakes in 3rd. 2 drivers who didn't run in the series last year and certainly showed speed at St. Pete. They played their hand correctly, but great finishes for them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take a lot of satisfaction in just not making the mistakes and keeping the car clean to end up in this kind of result. Now, they'll go away and say, listen, I wasn't the fastest car. We didn't have the setup just right. But this gives you breathing room, Paul.
Well, certainly
You'll
does.
take the result any way you can
Anytime you get a good result and you come home ahead of Montoya, Kanan, Power, I mean, that's a great day. So great to see her back in the series. Hopefully they can raise the money to keep her in the series through Indianapolis and keep going.
There's a bunch of guys that were so fast at St. Pete on a street circuit. I can't wait to get to Long Beach in a week's time. See guys like Graham Rahal You know, the racecraft that Graham's had has been really
very
strong.
good.
His pace looks good. He hasn't had the best luck, but this is not a bad finish for him to come home in the top 10.
I think it's one of the best cars he's had in a long time. But for James Hinchcliffe, onto the front straightaway for the final time in the Big Easy. It was not easy today for James Hinchcliffe. His 4th career win comes with Honda power at NOLA Motorsports Park. James Hinchcliffe wins in New Orleans. It's his first race win since 2013 in Iowa. 3 of his 4 wins.
Boys. Good call. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
The mayor of Hinchtown, maybe this will be his North American, his United States headquarters for Hinchtown down here in New Orleans. Look at the celebration for that team. 3 of his 4 wins have come on road or street courses, and he adds another one, and this one will be one to remember, not because, as you said, the outright speed.
Thank you guys so much. I know it's way easier to do it from the front, but you prove we can do it from the back. Great job, guys. Great job.
I'd like to hear your rendition of "Oh Canada," Paul.
Yeah, he's got a great team surrounded around him. You've driven for Sam. He puts together probably one of the best outfits out there with a smaller budget than the big guys.
Yeah, he deserves this result. That whole organization's worked hard to get here.
Well, from the elation of the winner to Kevin.
Certainly the mayor of Hinchtown is celebrating. Others not so happy right now, including Ryan Hunter-Ray. Tell me what you're seeing and what you're experiencing on that final restart with all the contact.
Yeah, we had a great race going. You know, had some really good clean racing there with Ray Hall Power. Even Pagano, we went side by side through turn 10 there. It was some good racing. Then we got down to turn 4 here, turn 3. Yeah, and I'm pedaling the car all the way out. It's loose, and there's just no more room for him to be out there. Bourdais on my side, on my left. I don't know where to go at that point. It's like, what do you want me to do? It'd be great if they showed it one more time. But Bourdais right there on my left, Pagano's on my right. I'm using my regular racing line. He stuck his nose out there, and he's off the racing line now, right here. Right? There's no more room, and I mean, I don't know where he was going with it, but yeah, and then he cleans us both out.
What did he say to you?
Lucky that I'm happy both all 3 of us are not injured at all. Pagano and I just talked real quick, and he said, you know, you ran me out of room, and I said there was no room in the first place. I don't know where you want me to put the car, but Bourdais right there. It's tight. It's a tight fit. He put his car out there, and now we're all sitting on the side of the road. So I don't know what to say to that. It's certainly a racing incident, but there wasn't a whole lot of room there to begin with.
Thanks, Ryan. Kelly?
Here was Simon Pagano, who just saw those replays. And Simon, we just heard from Ryan Hunter-Ray, who says there just wasn't any room for you to go there. How did you see it?
I was side by side mid corner. He knows I'm there. Had a nose ahead of him, so you know I'm inside of the next corner. But it seems like it's his track, so he runs me off. And look at what happened. That was really dangerous, really bad for Sebastian, who had a great race. Feel bad for him. He didn't deserve to be involved in that crash, but to me, that's just not a professional move.
Thank you.
Frustration, you saw it with the body language for Simon Pagano on the racetrack, and you hear it in his voice right there.
I can see both sides of that. It's 2 guys going for it. Last chance to make a position, and sometimes in this sport, bad things happen.
Well, it's almost one of those deals where you knew that these, as we were saying, yellows breed yellows, and you don't want to be the one that breeds it, but you know you need to make time. We're running out of time. You got to get things done right now, and I think that's what Simon was trying to do, but yeah.
It's the old adage, the beginning of the race, everybody was playing it cool and biding their time, and now it's the end of the race. I got cycled back further than I want to be. I got to make something happen, and then you push the limit, and that's what happens.
You know what's great about winning races? You get to victory lane, you get to get out and celebrate. But for James Hinchcliffe, we think he ran out of fuel before he got a chance to get there and celebrate. So Cruz getting down there. Let's head down to Kevin with Sebastian Bourdais.
He got collected in that incident as well. We saw Simon Pagano coming over to you. What was he saying?
I just made sure that I was okay. It was a pretty nasty hit, just at pretty much head level. It just missed my head by a couple of inches. So the tub is actually broken right in my shoulder. So he was pretty worried. It was a big hit.
Thank you. Sebastian Bourdais, good to see you. He's okay after a very scary hit.
Well, and as you have pointed out, Paul, that attenuator made big contact right there. James Hinchcliffe, he took the checkered flag, but now he's going to have to wait just a bit for celebration as he is out of fuel there at pit end. Crew's going to work to bring in the other damaged cars, but we'll be back to celebrations from Nola Motorsports Park. Well, when you are the winner, you can arrive fashionably late to victory lane. James Hinchcliffe does just that as his crew finally gets him down pit road after running out of fuel. Hinchcliffe already has his belts off because he wants out of that car and wants to celebrate. Congratulations to the entire team. They played that absolutely perfectly, maybe used a little voodoo and a crystal ball to see where things were headed as James Hinchcliffe gets pushed to victory lane. Look at the crowd. That's the thing that I'm impressed with. Adverse weather conditions, and you look back down behind the grandstands, now beginning to empty as they follow the celebration, just like they would a Mardi Gras parade down to victory lane.
I'm ready to see some beads start throwing.
He's ready to drink some of that voodoo juice.
Hurricane.
It just, I mean, this series is just, that's what makes it so great. I mean, we were talking about all weekend, the Penske domination, and you know, nothing is over till the checkered flag comes out.
No, it's not. And I think that's the one great thing, or one of the great things I should say. And we were talking about the number of winners from last year. I think the average finishing position for a pole sitter has been something like 10th, and the average winning position has been starting about 8th. So there's so much movement forward and backwards in the field. It is not over until it is over. But Helio Castroneves also had a great run. He comes home second. Kelly?
Helio Castroneves, and it was a bit of a wild weekend for you here in New Orleans, but you come away with a second-place finish off a gamble. What's your takeaway?
Well, I have to, first of all, congrats the entire track, the entire Verizon Indycar Series for keep pushing, you know, to have us around here, and keep the fans, actually. Congrats to the fans, and thank you for the fans for NOLA first race. We have to keep going. Track condition was really difficult because some of the areas there was a stream going on the racetrack, and it was very difficult for us to keep out there. Now, talking about the Hitachi boys, guys, you guys are awesome, you know, because we have a little bit of a misunderstood. I thought the guy that I hit was 2 laps down, and I knew he wasn't battling there for the lead, and unfortunately, we ended up getting our nose chopped out. The information was kind of like a little bit iffy, but in the end of the day, Roger, Jonathan, Doug, and everyone, Travis, guys, thank you. You guys never gave up. I never gave up, and in the end, it was today taking second place. It's a very happy day.
Well, guys, not as happy as James Hinchcliffe is. His first win since Iowa in 2013. How about this? Hinch makes it to victory lane in New Orleans. I don't think any of us thought this would be the case when the day started. The confetti flies, lots of hugs. And how about the strategy for James Hinchcliffe and the Schmidt-Peterson team? He wants to hug everybody. You got a few more to go, Hinch. Go ahead and hug it. You got to get them all in, right? Let's talk about this. Let's be honest. When they said you're not going to pit again, did you really think this was going to work out?
It was funny, you know, when we first decided to stay out, I thought, wouldn't it be funny if we could make this a one-stopper? I just never thought it, you know. On one hand, I feel bad we didn't have more green flag laps for the fans and everybody here at NOLA, but on the other hand, those guys called it awesome. The car was unbelievable on the reds there. We pulled away from a couple of Penske's on those restarts. You know, if we had gone green, I think we could have held them off at the end as long as we had the fuel. And can't thank Alan and Will and all the guys on the stand enough, all the guys in the pits. I was just so happy. Honda, Firestone, get that first win. Aero Electronics, Mr. Sam Schmidt.
Winning one for him.
Man, winning one for Sam. We were talking about this at dinner 2 nights ago with Rick. He said, I want one of your helmets, but it's got to be a race-winning one. So I feel like I just lost a helmet.
All
All right, they pull it into victory lane. He said, would you guys be mad if I lit it up just a little bit, just a little burnout? They said, we'd rather not. Let's save that engine. Brian.
Nicely done by the team. You saw Sam Schmidt there. Great celebrations from here at NOLA, the inaugural run for the Verizon IndyCar Series. More to come when we come back right after this. Hope you enjoyed the Verizon IndyCar Series. Still plenty of motorsports coming your way today. Nola Motorsports Park, Verizon IndyCar Series, its action is done, but IndyCar Chronicles will be up later today, and they will highlight and feature James Hinchcliffe. What a better person to do. Let's head down to Robin Miller.
James Jakes, 22nd to 3rd, second career podium, hell of a job, overcame a spin. Talk about your day.
It was pretty manic, to be honest. You know, we got hosed yesterday in qualifying. We got into the fast six, and they cancelled it. You know, and I thought we could start well, and I knew with the conditions today we could have a strong run. But then we had the spin. But you just got to be patient. Anything can happen, and it's you know, great credit to the team. You know, they worked their butts off. You know, we haven't been the ultimate pace this year. I don't think it's our own fault, but you know, everyone's working their butts off, and you know, we're looking forward to Long Beach.
All right, hell of a job, Kevin.
Simone Di Silvestro went from 18th to 4th. Tell me how you got it done.
Yeah, well, you know, in the rain we were going pretty well, and then we had a pretty good call on the pits to come in and put the slicks on, and the second stop was also a really good call. So I think that's how we shuffled forward, and from there on I was able to pass TK. So really happy. You know, I think it's great for the team and from myself. Second race back to finish 4th, and it's not something we're expecting, you know, after how the weekend started, but sometimes things kind of fall your way, and they did today, so really happy about it.
Great run. We know we'll see her in the 500. There's still a chance we might see her a long
time after a great victory here. One well thought out, well played to bring his car and Sam Schmidt Motorsports to victory lane here at NOLA Motorsports Park. But a lot of turning points throughout the day. Some full course cautions, some excitement, a little bit of drama. Let's look